Hi everybody. We started small in Switzerland and we didn't think that we would scale that fast to 70 plus countries. So this afternoon we'll show you how we did that, what worked well, what didn't work well, maybe where we failed, and how pharma product launches can do the same, smarter and faster. Everybody talks about scaling, but scaling is never just about tech. It's of course about people, it's about processes, it's about trust. My name is Christian, I'm the founder and CEO of Capptoo Group. With the Capptoo agency, we have delivered more than 600 projects in pharma, from customer experience projects, from design thinking workshops, to product launches, to omnichannel campaigns, to HCP and HCP portals. And we have developed Screver AI, which is according to commercial break, according to Gartner, now the leading voice of customer platform in pharma. Commercial break ended.
Good, and I'm Myszkowski. I was part of this journey of scaling from 1 to 70, and also in all parts, the technical part, as I'm a geek at heart, in the business part, and also in the change management part. So let me give you a story first. It all started in a small country in the heart of Europe, where very few individuals flying under the radar, fueled by chocolate and cowbells, had a big dream of understanding the customer, because great CX is understanding the customer. Where we started to have a few surveys to ask feedback and incorporate that into a feedback loop. And you see on the top, we started with just a few channels, so the survey was just there. It was there, we asked questions, we got some feedbacks, we did some actions based on it. Then it became a multi-country program. So voice of customer means understanding the customer to improving your CX, right? So it started with a bit of competition. So the few markets that were involved, they started to say, what's your NPS? What's your CSAT? How can we scale? How can we improve? How can we do better campaigns? And you see already, we added more therapeutic areas, we added more channels, but still we focused on the HCPs, on the doctors only, asking feedback in a few channels to then drive engagement into other spheres, so to speak. Then it became a regional program. What does that mean? That means that the regional leadership, and all of you that work with or for big pharma know that then it starts to be, you start to be present. Those KPIs start to be present. There is more channels that we added. There is more users that we added. There's change management. There is KPIs. There is dashboards. All of this started to really influence the way how we do marketing, how we start campaign, how we plan campaign, and then how with the feedback we take actions. After that, it became a multi-regional campaign. So that means that not only there was the leadership, marketing teams and IT teams of one region involved, but of multiple regions. And you see here now the keyword is context, because we started to add more target audiences and we started to understand the context. Is a feedback given after receiving an email more important, less important, different than a feedback given at the Congress? So you really need to start to understand where the data is coming from and what the context is of the data, and what the respondent is. Is it a nurse? Is it a medical student? Who is it that gives you the feedback? In what situation? And then you need to exactly target the next steps based on that feedback and where it came from. Is it content? Is it design? Is it aligned to the segments, to the personas? And is it, careful buzzword coming, omni-channel, right? Is it orchestrated between all of these? So after that, now in 2025, we are going global. We are going global. That means that we are adding countries like Japan, like US, and we are adding this into the way we work, the way our customer works. So it's now part of the global CX metrics. So it is now key to understand how did we improve the customer experience, right? Again, another buzzword. Is it through better content? Is it through better timing? Is it through better frequency? So all this now starts to lead towards the next best action in any campaign that is driven by this famous pharma company customer. And if we go now to the next, because what would be a keynote speech today without mentioning AI, right? But you see here the clear journey. You have to start small, you have to experiment, you have to get your data right. It can be structured and unstructured, but it needs to be understood. Then you can scale to multiple channels, and you need to understand not only the channel individually, but also the channel in orchestration, hence omni-channel. And then you can eventually, when you know your events, you know your face-to-face, you know your social media feedback, you can go into buzzword, agentic AI. But let me tell you, only to understand a summary of feedback from a certain channel and then take action of it and make sure people actually read it and take those actions is a big undertaking. So I think the AI part is only feasible once you set the base and once you understand what you are doing. And then absolutely AI will help to scale this even further. Now, one more thing to, as an anecdote. When we did implement all those elements, and we are now fully buzzword compliant with AI, with omni-channel, with targeted content, personalized content, anything, the actual result was less. What do I mean by that? We see that people, marketeers, in all those countries that I mentioned, actually start to do less. First of all, because they're worried that, you know, any campaign, any feedback given could reduce their NPS score, their CSAT, or their other scores, but also it makes them reflect on how do we do the next best action? How do we better personalize the content? How do we better engage the HCP at which location and even beyond the target audience of HCPs? So, in summary, why and how did we scale so fast? But again, it started very slow with patience in 2021. Remember, that was the time when AI was not a big buzzword. It was agile, it was omni-channel, it was multi-channel. So we started with patience, with small, flying under the radar, and we scaled up until we now have a global program. So that means you need to have your rollout plan in order. You need to know the details. The details are key. Start with a design thinking workshop, start with a planning workshop, start with understanding what do I want to get out of all this? Why do I measure feedback? And then, of course, learn as you go. Understand the technical implications. Understand how it is integrated in everything. A key element also is understand your first target audience, which is not the HCP, but it's your employees, your marketing teams. Do they want to use the tool 100% themselves, hence in a self-service? Don't make it too costly, too expensive in terms of time and effort to set up a feedback loop, a survey. Make it easy to implement into a website so that it looks actually in a nice UI UX, because we learned from several speeches in the last 2 days, UI UX is key, otherwise people will not engage. Or do you need hand-holding? Do you have markets which might have not the necessary capacity to run all this and make sure that this runs to success? So you need a very flexible setup with full service or self-service, which is a key learning that we had. And of course, it needs to plug into your ecosystem. A survey in itself, which just sits there, will generate the 2021 numbers that we had. So if you want to scale fast, you need to be integrated up until your dashboards, right? This particular customer has it integrated into their Click and Tableau and BI dashboards so that the leadership team actually sees the CX scores and how they are progressing per country and per context and even per campaign. And most important, Deliver value from day one. Start so that you don't need 6 months to set up something. Start so that you can immediately deliver some insights, deliver some value for first, again, the business units and marketeers, and then the HCP in itself. So, start small, think big, and think about the actionable feedback so that in the end, scaling is not about tech, but it is about trust in the tools, the teams, and the ways of working, clarity, and results. And with that, I hand over.
Thank you. So, and what Michal just explained, it's not the end. You know, scaling at a global level, a regional level, it's just a foundation. The real impact comes from generating those insights and using those insights to improve product launches and transforming away from guesswork to measurable launch successes right from the very start. A few statistics, you know, some of you know the statistics, but I go back on what Dario said yesterday in his opening speech. He mentioned that what has changed since he started Next in 2019 to now. A lot of things have changed. We talk about precision medicine, we talk about AI, we talked about all these beautiful topics and buzzwords. But unfortunately, what has not much changed is how we launch the products. You know, it's a push to the market approach versus different options we would have. So 10% to 15% of all launches, they actually achieve the targets we set forth prior to the launch. That means that 80% fail. They fail to deliver the market share, the revenue that we wanted in the year 1 and 2. And worst, even when you look at 2 years post the drug launch, the numbers are then dropping even more to 5% for rare disease, primary care drug launches, and 8% for specialty care drug launches. Only those small percentage, they achieved the 2-year numbers. First year failure also, unfortunately, or logically, equals long-term struggles. What you did not well in the first year, you will never recover, or generally, you don't recover that. So it is paramount that you do the launches right. And then we see Boston Consulting Group, McKinsey, they evidence that poor customer engagement, lack of HCP understanding, and a lack of differentiation are much bigger contributors to failure than clinical performance of the drug. And then we have finally also the launch cliff. I'm not sure if you have heard of it, but even though a drug does super well when it's launched, there's a launch cliff 6 to 12 months post-launch, where the performance of the sales actually is starkly reduced. So all this led us to rethink, to a paradigm shift, how we want the drugs to be launched. And that's where our agency comes in and the Screver AI platform. So what we do is nowadays with product launches, we support them with a VOC program. We're mapping all the different phases of a patient journey, from awareness to HCP and patient educations to first doses application to maintaining the treatment. And in any one of these phases, we identify the touch points that are relevant to us. We measure the touch points, how good are we at those touch points, and where do we want to excel. And we continue measure. It could be after a sales rep visit with a physician, MSL visits, it could be on a website, it could be anywhere where we have a chance to generate valuable data, valuable information. So in every phase of the patient journey, in all logical and useful touch points, we survey the physicians, the payers, the patients for insights. And based on those feedbacks, based on those insights, we keep improving the touch points, how we act on those touch points, therefore the patient journey stages, and for the benefit of the patient. And of course, we have to measure what we're doing. We heard now so much about, I remember 3 years when we stood here, no one talked about NPS, no one talked about CX, no one talked about AI. Now everybody seems to know what they are. You know, and if you look at them, you know, in all those 45,000 surveys we've done last year for this pharma company, we of course include loyalty questions like NPS, we do CSAT scores in there, and then we purposefully look at the next best actions. Now we have all the data, what do we do now? So what should happen next? And we keep improving those scores, those KPIs. And that ultimately leads always to higher HCP engagement, to a better patient journey, to reduce drop-off rates from the drugs. At the end of the day, to more revenue, EBITDA, and market share. So we're redefining pharma product launches away from push a product to the market to evidence-based, human-centric product launches. And where we continuously listening throughout the journey to the patients, to the payers, to the HCPs, where we bridge the gap, and that's important, where we bridge the gap between R&D, market access, and the commercial teams. And we keep co-creating better experiences. And this I really want to stress. I know that everybody talk about it, but do we really get it, you know? If you have an NPS score with our mobile phone provider, that is low, because it's just bad. We just switch the mobile phone provider. We do the same with insurances. We do the same with retail shops. We do the same with banks. Or hope at least we do. But when it comes to pharma, you know what you're doing, what the pharma's doing? You're producing miracles. These drugs are miracles. And we cannot fail on the experiences. Poor experience in pharma ultimately will lead to delayed treatments. It will erode the trust we have, or the patients have, and it will leave patients behind. So, to our understanding, there should not be any product launch with a thought-through VOC, voice of customer, program underneath, in order to improve those experiences for the benefit of the patients. Thank you very much. Now we have...
Any questions? We have some time for questions.
Come on, Novartis.
Question at the back there, just bear with me.
Can you talk through how you overcome the legal and regulatory challenges related to voice of the customer? In particular, how you differentiate VOC from market research?
I'll start with even broader. What we did and what we are implementing, the first challenge was open text questions. So we implemented, with the help of AI, a complete validation of not only the sentiment, but also of any potential adverse events. Okay, so our tool can identify them, report to the right people, so that we can then immediately react as per compliance, right? And that was a key unlocker to open up open text questions, which are the real value of feedback, right? So just as an anecdote. Secondly, if you look at pharma companies, market research is typically a complete different stream, right? Complete different project. It's not marketing, it's not sales. And the difference of always on feedback is that it is not market research, because in market research you would define with the panel of repliants a set of questions which you want to answer into a statistically correct way. Real-time feedback is completely different, as it leads more into the marketing world and more into asking immediate feedback, which then can be translated. Christian?
No, nothing to add. Yeah.
We've been, Estelle from UCB here, we've been trying a similar journey at UCB with a slightly different framework. Where we are failing is basically that every single campaign or every single marketeer is really drafting their own set of questions, which makes it almost impossible to get concrete insights through those, because they're just also different. That, getting a real feedback or any kind of real insight is difficult to grasp.
Okay, so when I'm asked what our USP is after 600 pharma projects, our USP is thinking. We are really good in thinking how to achieve something and testing it, A/B testing. We don't leave anything to chance. 22 seconds, I try to be fast. And we have to design the questionnaire, and it has to come somehow top-down. It cannot be that everyone does their own stuff, you know, and it's so easy to ask the wrong questions. And we need to make sure Whenever we ask a question, we need to know what we do with the result. If you don't do that, don't ask the question. And that's where most fail as well. But happy to talk another time.